Morning, guys. Or maybe it's afternoon when you're reading this. I don't know. Hopefully, you were okay with the idea yesterday of churches as religious organisations, and how that's more than the building. It's the people, the membership, the structure, the way that it operates, almost like a business, almost like a school, almost like any other kind of institution or organisation. The next one I want to have a look at is denominations. You can whiz through this really quickly and it has the potential to be a very short lesson. So as I've said on Show My Homework, use the extra time to crack on with your revision. But today, by the end of the session, I want you to know what a denomination is for sociologists, and be able to give some examples. So firstly, things that you need to know. Started in the 1920s in America by a sociologist called Niebuhr. Worth noting the time, so 1920s, very long time ago. The world looks very, very different to what it did then, but also the fact that this is US based. And the United States has a very different system of organizing its religion, a very different history of religion with the UK. So remember, the United States as we know it was founded by the Pilgrim Fathers who set sail from Plymouth because they felt religiously persecuted. So the US has a very different view of religion. To that end, it doesn't have an established church. So there is no Church of America, or there probably is a church called the Church of America, and Donald Trump's probably put himself at the top of it. But there's no established church. There is no church that's linked to the state in the same way that the Church of England is linked to the state here, or the Roman Catholic Church is linked to the state in many countries like Spain or Italy. So the USA has lots of different branches of religion, and that's where Niebuhr's ideas of denominations come from. So they are similar to churches. They're similar to churches in terms of their beliefs and structures, but they generally just tend to be a bit smaller. And their membership, where churches tend to have quite an upper class membership, they tend to be the more well-off people in society, because it maintains the status quo, it keeps things going. They like things to stay the way that they are. Denominations tend to recruit their members from more working class or lower middle class backgrounds, whereas the more affluent and well-off tend to go into the churches. We'll explore this much more when we look at Marxism and Marxist beliefs about religion. Denominations have views that are broadly in line with the norms and values of society, but they generally lack an official connection to the state. So they are world accommodating, to a certain extent world affirming, but they generally have values that are in line with society. They're not challenging the status quo, they're not challenging any different, but they are generally not connected to the state. And this is the interesting part, so that many denominations actually started off, when we look at sects, next lesson you'll see what I mean, but started off as sects having some kind of dispute or disagreement with a church, and so branched away and became established, therefore have become denominations. As a result, they don't claim a monopoly on truth. They're able to coexist with others. Denominations often just want to be respected with religious freedom. So they just want to kind of have religious pluralism in society. So I believe that there are lots of different valid religions. And to that extent, they differ to churches because they don't claim a monopoly on truth. They understand that people may have different views and they often respect that. A couple of evaluation points it's worth noting. Bruce, we're going to talk about him a lot. He's got a lot to say about religion. In 1996, said that the concept of the church in the UK is outdated. He said what we actually have in the UK now are denominations, that the church in the UK doesn't exist. And he blames the separation of church and state for this. So he says that although there is a clear link between the church and the state, it's kind of dwindled. Parliament doesn't allow religion to have so much say over the way that society is run, and therefore we are a much more secular, that means non-religious society. And he would say that what we would now call churches are actually denominations. So he would argue that in the UK, the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of England are actually denominations and not churches. If you wanted some examples of churches to counter that for extra AO3, you can use the Orthodox Church in Greece, which still has much sway over Greek, the way that the Greek state runs, or you can use Islam in Iran or Saudi Arabia, for example, where it is a what we might call a theocracy. It's a system of governance based on religion, and instead it's this idea of religious pluralism. So denominations exist because we have many different viewpoints. So it's an evaluation point to raise that does the church still exist in the UK at the moment, or are they just all denominations because membership has dwindled, the relationship between the church and the state has dwindled, and therefore the church as this all-encompassing guidance on social life doesn't really exist anymore. Final thing I need you to do then, shouldn't take you very long, is to fill in the column on denominations. Hopefully it's all made sense. I've put on Show My Homework 2 website links that have more info, and also I've scanned in a bit of the Ken Brown book, just he's made this table in more detail, and you now have a copy of that, so you can use that as your examples. The examples of denominations could be things like Methodists, Baptists, Pentecostal churches, the Quakers. If you wanted to have a read into more detail, you could also use the Sunni and Shia split in Islam as an example if you wanted to. Email me any questions. I miss you all so much, and I wish I could make my rubbish jokes about things like Donald Trump to your blank faces in my classroom. Take care, everyone. See you soon.